Hello everyone, welcome to the deep dive. Josh Williams joins me for this one, and we are going to be discussing in today's episode slots 4-2-3-1, how we think Liverpool will defend and what profile of defender Liverpool need to be looking at, Josh. So first off, obviously the 4-2-3-1 formation that we think that Arne Slot is going to play. What initial thoughts makes you think that, where does it lead you? It's 4 at the back. Are you looking at these defenders here and thinking, what have we got and what profile will be needed? Is that what you're looking at when you look at slots 4-2-3-1?
I think he will probably use 4-2-3-1, but I think the onus will more be on him to come in and look at what have I got and work around that basically. Luckily for him, he's got a really deep squad. I think we'll probably have a lot more outgoings this summer than incomings personally. And I think one of the things he certainly hasn't got is a specialist belter 6, and in the market they're not there either, so that's why I don't really mind this personally. Midfield 2, then you've got 2 players doing the job of 1, and then I suppose one of the only issues is you've only got 1 lad in this kind of space when we've got Szoboszlai, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Ali Mack, Gavin Burke. They probably all want to be around there or something, so that's a little bit of a problem, but I specifically like how this probably solves to a certain extent the 6 problem, the lack of 6s in the squad and in the market as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think one of the things that I think's interesting, and first of all, is I'm going to bring up a graphic on screen to show you firstly what he was doing with Feyenoord. So you can see there Gertrude, the number 4. He's the right back for Feyenoord, and he inverted in build-up phase. And straight away, you're thinking about it, aren't you? And you're thinking, that's Trent Alexander-Arnold. I can almost hear people now talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold and going, well, we don't want that. We don't want him inverting. Trent Alexander-Arnold's the reason that we were poor defensively and all that type of stuff. And I get those concerns, but I think it should be made aware to everybody. But defending in a 4-2-3-1 in the way Slot does it is different to defending in the 4-3-3, the way that Klopp does it.
Yeah.
And I think, so to sort of take a look at the whole pitch first of all, right? Can you go through what Klopp's idea of defending was and who did it, from the front players to where they were in the midfield and stuff like that?
Well, I actually think it's kind of varied a bit throughout his time at the club. I think initially these 3 were just amazing on the defensive end. This fella specifically took care of the centre. And I think as a 3, they sometimes, just by coming over here when the ball was over here and doing the same over there, as a trio, Klopp said this quite a few times, they were capable of basically defending 5, potentially 6 players, because you've usually got an opposition back 4. Sometimes they're playing with a double pivot. That's 6 opposition players. Maybe, I don't know if you're including the goalkeeper or not, but you had these 3 defending that at once, and he was just really good at it. Firmino was amazing, obviously, we know all that. But I think since we've moved towards basically the Nunes era, Nunes is no way, I think Linda said this with you, didn't he? Yeah. That he's not as capable of taking care of the centre. You've also got Salah now here, who I don't think he presses as much as the others, or if he does do the pressing, he never actually wins the ball. He never actually.
He gets close.
Yeah, he gets close. He's more of like a obstacle almost, as opposed to like an actual.
He'll
ball.
Cast the shadow, but he doesn't actually go and win the ball anymore.
Yeah, and I think potentially to combat that, and with the midfield box helping a little bit as well, the 8s have started to press a bit more nowadays, and I think Jones is up there for being a presser. If you look at Liverpool's pressure numbers this season, McAllister's the most, Szoboszlai's right up there. These are our number 8s, not these lads, not the front 3. So I think we've adjusted in that sense. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And I think one of the other things I'll just bring it back is, so they might go a little bit narrow if the ball's sort of central, for example, and they're trying to sort of make sure these passes out here aren't available and stuff like that. We know the three were there. What would happen quite often is you'd have the fullbacks high up the pitch and they'd be jumping forwards into the press at times, and that obviously leaves its spaces and stuff. But what I sort of wanted to go on to was, in terms of the 4-2-3-1 formation that Arne Slot has employed, he drops back, and I've got a graphic for you here, which is probably the perfect place for it, actually. They drop back into a 4-4-2 formation. Now, the winger, Paxao and Minte, they're the wingers. Timber is the centre midfielder, the 10, who goes forwards. So if you can bring it back to the board for me now, what happens is we get the wingers dropping deep and him pushing forwards. Now, naturally, you're going from a 4-3-3 formation where you've got 3 in the middle of the park and 3 up front. The idea and the philosophy behind Klopp's winning the ball back is you win back high up the pitch and you're in a much better position to attack straight away because you've got the 3 players. When you drop into this, you're not as likely to win the ball further up the field, but you have an extra body in the midfield compared to Klopp's 4-3-3. And so when Trent is inverting and moving back, he's not thinking about going forwards to win the ball and help Mo Salah or something else, equally Andy Robertson. He is thinking of one thing, and that is getting back. I think that's one thing that's always been a problem for Trent. And then obviously the right winger, Salah, comes back, if it is indeed Salah, and he plays in exactly the same way. Question marks over it.
But I think the fact that this fella in a 4-4-2 would just be closer to Trent would help him. He's not, Salah's always been that. There's been some talk, which I found interesting, of Salah becoming a 10. And I think, obviously, there's your formation there. Salah would be there. But I think more, insistently for me, potentially would be how that would impact us off the ball. Because then you could put someone here who's a bit more of a dog than Salah is. And Salah's just protecting the middle, which he's probably better at than actually going and regaining the ball and protecting Trent and stuff. So that'd be an interesting way around it. But the 4-4-2 is like widely renowned for being pretty much the best defensive formation. Ancelotti said it, Arteta uses it, Guardiola uses it. But Liverpool have never really. But I wouldn't be against the use of it at all. You could also do this as well if you want to be a bit more defensive. So again, there's your 4-2-3-1. And if you want to cover a bit more of a base, then he could drop back in. So could he. And you've got a 4-5-1 then. But I think we'll do the 4-4-2. That's what I'm expecting. And the fact that Salah can play in the front two probably makes it a bit more possible to do that. But
and then it opens up so many possibilities for me, Josh, because I'm looking at these lads now, and the Salah point's brilliant by you. If he plays in this number 10 position, you could have someone like a Harvey Elliott. I know this guy's a creator in Slot's system as well, rather than a goal scorer. He could play that. He doesn't have the pace, of course, I understand that. But defensively, probably a lot better than Salah would be. In terms of the 10, if it's not Salah, you're looking for someone who is going to press and is brilliant at leading the press. Well, Jones might not have the creativity of someone like that, but is an incredible presser. Szoboszlai, an incredible presser. McAllister has the creativity plus a brilliant presser. There's quite a few options in our squad for that, but taking it all back to, this sort of inverted thing, right? So Trent goes in there. What have I got here? So the way it works, right? In possession, Trent moves forwards, that lad moves forwards.
Yeah.
And then you've got your 5 there.
Yeah.
Taking it back, and then shoots back into a 4-4-2. Nice and easy. What I'm trying to say, a very long-winded way, is don't be afraid of Trent going into the middle of the park again and being inverted, because the midfield will naturally have more numbers, and it's not about winning the ball high and scoring a goal. It's about control, it's about support, and it's about building up from the back. Yeah. And that's something that I think we're going to see with Arne Slot.
Yeah, the Trent question's obviously a big one. I am relatively tired of seeing us get attacked down this flank, but I do think it's destined to continue if Trent stays there. I think if he moves into the middle, I don't know. I think he could do a job there. I think the player probably wants to do that, but he is just also really good as a right back, like you know. And we do have lots of options in midfield. We took care of that last summer, and I think if you was gonna view Trent as a midfielder, last summer was the time to do it. Then you view him as a midfielder, play him in there, and you sign a right back as opposed to Gravenberch or Endo or something like that. So I would like to see us put an end to this kind of getting attacked down. It does me head in. It's just so easy, such an easy win for opposing teams.
But the control, that's what I'm trying to say, is the control might help us with that, mightn't it? But
I think it will, yeah.
If we start doing the inverted stuff and we go back to the sort of 4-2-3-1 formation we've got, if Trent is there, what we're going to see is the question again and again and again. The one that we've been beating the drum about for a year now is the profile of defender needs to be a left-sided centre-half / left-back, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think one interesting thing about this, because Virgil's now 32, something like that, yeah.
I think he's 32.
We could sign a left-back who is also a centre-half with a view to basically a Gvardiol, right? He plays as a left-sided back thing, you know, whenever we took inside and used the box midfield and all that. And then when Virgil goes, he then just becomes a centre-half. And that would be a way of kind of signing two players for a period and then already having Virgil's replacements in the building when he gets off. But the Robertson wide centre-back thing has always been a bit weird for me.
Well, it has with the inverted fullback, hasn't it? And I get that, but equally, okay, so you're looking at the back four now, a left back / left centre back. Virgil van Dijk's absolutely fine. In terms of the centre half on this side, that right hand side, what are your early thoughts in this transfer window? Are we going to sign someone? Do we need to sign somebody?
I think if we sign a centre half, which we're probably going to, I think it will probably be for here, which means he'll be right footed, which means you could rule out someone like an Anasio. If Van Dijk stays, obviously. And I think if Trent is staying here, especially, the onus on this fella to be capable of managing 1v1s just grows a little bit more, because you're going to face more of them if Trent is just paying out and leaving you isolated. So, to be honest, Kanate, funnily enough, you know, someone exactly like Kanate who can cover lots of ground, physical monster, tall, aggressive, proactive, probably could be a bit better on the ball, but he is good on the ball still. Someone like that again. Kwanzaa again is not that far from me. Just another one of them, another player like that, and someone maybe who is a bit more accustomed to seeing the ball and building the game, because I think Slot is a bit more, you know, we build through the thirds. There's no like long, well, he is long ball to be fair every now and then, but it is a bit more modern in terms of
he's
goalkeepers
involved.
Isn't he? Yeah, the goalkeepers involved and all that. It's nice 6-yard passes and stuff. What about you?
So yeah, I think for me, there's two signings that need to be made. We need to make a signing here, and I think for all the reasons you said, but mainly it's Kanate's injury history is the concern. If Kanate was just fit, I wouldn't even be entertaining it, because you got Kanate and you got Kwanzaa, and I really like Kwanzaa as well. By the way, I think he's been absolutely exceptional. My worry is you can't just go in with a fit Kwanzaa and a lad who probably misses half the season in Kanate, because that's just the way that he's kind of gone the last couple of years, isn't it?
Yeah, the only thing with Kwanzaa, you really don't want to crowd him out. No. You know, I don't know about you, but I genuinely think he's fully good enough. Like, I think he's, you know, top 4 Premier League. He's 21, he's massive. He's made 1 or 2 mistakes, but it's to be expected. He's only a kid, and even experienced players do that. Pretty good on the ball. The only thing he hasn't got is pace. But other than that, I think he's definitely. I don't think he needs upgrading on necessarily or anything like that. You just probably need another option, because we've lost Matip, and because Gomez isn't really a centre half no more for some reason.
If you had to make one signing at the back line, where's it going?
A lot of it is relative, you know. A lot of it just depends on what you're doing. If you're moving Trent into midfield, I don't actually think Trent will make a permanent switch. I think whatever we do with Trent will be similar to what we've seen already, where sometimes he's playing here, Sometimes he's moving in, sometimes he's starting here. I think that will just keep happening. But if you're moving Trent permanently away, then you might need a right back. If you're doing the box midfield and your defensive line's going like that, maybe you need a bit more of a centre half here as your left back. If you're not, and if you're keeping things relatively simple, probably just a Matip replacement. Even though Kwanzaa, I've seen some people say Kwanzaa's that, but it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's proper sliding door stuff.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? When we've not seen a slot side, you know, a Liverpool slot side, it makes it incredibly difficult. I think if I had to put money on it, and I had to make one signing, I'm buying the left-sided centre-back to play left-back and also be cover, because that would give you a centre-back for Virgil van Dijk. You've got Konate and Kwanzaa there. You've got Joe Gomez if you need to. I've got 5 midfielders. One of them's Konate, who's got injury problems. I think Joe's past his injury problems. Fingers crossed, touch wood. Should do it like that. Van Dijk's been sound, as we know, touch wood. You've replaced your Matip. You've also got your backup. And if the shit hits the fan centre-backs wise, he comes inside, you play with one of the fit ones, and you throw Andy Robertson back in at left-back.
Yeah.
That's if you've only got one move to make, I think that adds versatility.
If you're doing that as well, you probably sell Tsimikas to fund some of it, you think?
Yeah.
And then the backup to Robertson, or the starter ahead of Robertson, would be a left-sided centre-half who's playing as a left-back, like Gvardiol. The only problem with that, and Liverpool have suffered from this, I think, over the past season, if you're doing that, right, that's your shape in possession. Liverpool have been doing elements of that for the past year or so, and one of the recurring problems is the width thing, because we have forwards who are all inclined to do that, all of them. And when I say do that, I don't even mean beating a man in the process. I mean just like kind of staying here, yeah, just already starting here. So if you look at that, anyone who's never even experienced football tactics, if you showed that to your mum or anything, what might be a problem there? It's just far too narrow, and you don't have any. So if you are doing that, what you've just said, which is fine, you then might look at someone for the flanks. Like, say, for example, you move Salah to play as the 10, like we said earlier, and you put a bit of an emphasis on signing someone who is a 1v1 specialist. Like a
Doku or...
Yeah, like a Doku, yeah. But ideally with a bit more product. That's a typical problem with that kind of player. You get in Doku, who's a 1v1 specialist. He does nothing else, mate. He complete... I don't want to say one-dimensional, but if he's not dribbling, he's not doing a great deal. And Liverpool have inside forwards who want to score goals, which is great. But I think Diaz is the only one who can beat a man.
Diaz, for me, fits the mould because I don't think he's a natural at going in here anyway. I think he's actually absolutely fine at that. And I think if you were to ask him to come back and do that, I think defensively he's really good as well. Like, you know, he's putting in an absolute shift. Yeah. Whereas Salah, maybe not anymore, is going to be that sort of wide player, and certainly isn't going to be that sort of wide player where they come back and help out, is it? And then that then begs the question, defensively, are we signing a winger who helps us defensively and in an attacking sense, I suppose? Yeah. I think we... Yeah, I know what you mean. I think when it comes to the Robertson thing, if you're gonna go narrow here at the bottom of your team with your left back and that, you've got to go wide then at the top end of the pitch, and we don't really have that. We've always had them because of Firmino. So this is the kind of fine tuning that I've been on about lately about what Liverpool might need to do. But I said it before, it's all relative. You can't say definitely do that, because that will then impact that and that. You know what I mean? Everything's like really connected. So you can't really move until you know what you're doing with Trent, until you know what you're doing with Virgil and all that, and then you build your puzzle then from there almost. And that's the thing that I think Slot's probably going to find the hardest, isn't it? Is he might have these ideas of what Liverpool is going to look like under him, but until he gets in the building and starts training and starts looking at these lads and seeing crucially what they've been doing and what's natural to them, I don't think he's going to be so bullheaded that he's got this plan and you're just going to have to fit in.
Yeah.
He's going to have to mould this squad because it's been 9 years of Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. They're all set in their ways in many ways. It's going to take coaching, it's going to take time. So the easiest thing might be introduce a few new things at a time, and then maybe in 3, 6, 9, 12 months you might see Slot's Liverpool, as it were.
Yeah, but he's coming into a massive squad. He's got a huge squad. He's never managed any of them, as far as I know. He might have some experience at Gakpo and Gravenberch, but that's it. So, like, some people were expecting Liverpool to make a signing before the Euro, but when you actually think about it, it was never going to happen because he's got to work with them first. No point in just, I mean, unless there's a glaring void, which potentially is centre half, because we haven't got that many numbers there. But other than that, I think it's completely normal that he's going to come in, work with a completely different level of player than what he's used to, by the way. You know, come up with a blueprint or whatever, and then you make a bit more of a build. But I think it's going to be a summer of outgoings, I think, personally, and 1 or 2 incomings potentially.
So off the top of your head then, is Kelleher someone that you think is going to be moving on this summer?
Yeah, but that's probably on him, innit? More than
Tsimikas?
Yeah.
Who else?
I got up the squad, hang on.
Because we've obviously, I mean, Tsimikas, I think it's probably the right time for him to move on, isn't it? In terms of midfielders, I can't imagine many going. In terms of forwards, I think Jota will stick around, I think Gakpo will stick around, I think Nunes will stick around, I think Salah will likely stick around, Diaz will likely stick around. Unless some mad offer comes in for Luis Diaz, I can't imagine there's that many players that you'd actually sell.
Yeah, so looking at it, I did this the other day on my Substack really quickly. I think these players here that I've highlighted...
Right, let me pull them up here.
Without wanting to start a fire here, I think they're the players that if you get a bid for this summer, you think about it. Not all of them. Obviously, you don't sell them all. I'm talking about like 1 or 2 of them or something. But these are the players for me who like are potentially sellable.
So I've got here now on my screen the players that I think you've highlighted: Luis Diaz, Mo Salah, Andy Robertson, Joe Gomez, Diogo Jota, Queven Kelleher, and Kostas Tsimikas, who is down here.
They're the kind of first teamers who I think, because there's certain players you get a bid for, and before you've even opened the bid, you're like, no. Like McAllister, for example. Someone like that. I think they're the players mainly because of age, in some cases because of tactical...
Contract as well, maybe.
Yeah, contract, yeah, definitely. And some cases because of tactical fit. They're the players who you open, you'd see the bid on the table and you'd be like that. You know what I mean? You'd think about it. But I'd also be completely fine in a weird sort of way if they all stayed in a way. You know, I think Tsimikas is probably worth selling at the minute. Like Kelleher again, similar. But other than that, if you keep Diaz, Salah, Robertson, Gomez, and Jota in the building, it's probably fine. Like.
I would 100% keep Joe Gomez.
Yeah, a few people have said
because of his versatility, and I think he's been fucking brilliant. But I also don't begrudge him it being maybe his time to move on. I mean, he's 26 years old. He's been at the football club for near 27 years old, just turned. Been at the football club for 9 years. Still isn't a regular starter. Has been a regular starter. Can totally understand him moving for pastures new and becoming a centre half somewhere. But I would certainly.
The thing I like about Gomez, he reminds me of. Obviously, I was watching Real Madrid the other day when like their 48th Champions League or something, and they've just got the odd little one of them, you know, like a Nacho or a Lucas Vazquez, Joselu, there's someone else that I think I'm ignoring, but they've got them little Ferguson was a master at, you know, Phil Neville and that, and Nicky Buss, players like that.
Luke fucking Chadwick.
Yeah.
Lads who've got Premier League titles.
Darren Fletcher.
Yeah.
Park Ji-sung, those lads who you know would just do a job. Gomez is definitely that, so I do like him for that reason, definitely. But I'm just thinking purely because he's got 3 years on his deal. He is 27 now. He's been around forever. If you get say you've got a bid for 35 million for Joe Gomez or something. You're thinking about that?
I would say, sure you don't want to cost us. 35 million's a lot of money for him, but I think I don't think you can get a player as versatile and as good as what Joe Gomez was last season for 35 million quid. It's also the problem I have with selling Kelleher, although I think it's his time to move on. Like, you're asking for probably between 30 and 40 million for Queeve Kelleher. What are you going to spend to replace him? And because we've got a goalkeeper who is A, the best in the world, but B, probably one of the most injury-prone goalkeepers Liverpool have ever had, you need a really good backup goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And Liverpool centre-halves are known for having injuries, so Joe Gomez is a good person to have around.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, as I said, I had no major issue with him staying. But we have a deep squad. Like, you've got to bear in mind, we also have Percentage. We have Owen Beck, who we haven't even mentioned. As he had a really good season up in Scotland. We've got Bobby Clark, Tyler Morton's returning, Fabio Carvalho. Huge squad. So I think we're going to have a fair few outgoings. Don't know how much they'll raise. But if we want like a big hitter sale,
Is Diaz?
Probably is Diaz, even though we've just said before that if you're doing a back three, box midfield, like that, Diaz is probably your most suitable wide player because he can do wide stuff. I've actually thought recently about Diaz here. I'd like
a right footer on the right hand side? No.
Well,
Josh.
Hang on.
No, you've written how many pieces about this? It's got to be a left footer. It's that right hand side. I even said on the podcast yesterday, I said something to someone and said, don't talk about a right footed midfielder to anyone under the age of 25 playing on the right because they won't be having it. You fell into that category. I know you're not under 25, but you fell into that category. I'm old enough to remember when right footed players could do it, and I like it.
No, I think the reason I'd say it with Diaz though is because he could beat his man and get here and cut the ball back, which Slot was doing a lot in Feyenoord. And on top of that, I said recently on my podcast on Substack, he's got this thing, I don't know where it's come from, it's unbelievably annoying, where he can pick up the ball anywhere, anywhere on the left side, whatever, and he can get you from any spot to the penalty spot. Right, he can get you there, but when he gets you there, he stops. He just stops, mate, and then he lets everyone else get behind the ball, and then shoots, and it gets blocked, and it's cul-de-sac stuff, and it does me head in. I think if you was to put him over here, he'd be a bit more inclined to beat his man.
Or just cross it.
And just cross or just shoot. Not like the goal.
He scored the right footer from there, near post this season, do you remember? When he was playing on that right hand side?
Well, he scored one far post, the most controversial goal of the season against Spurs, the one that got stupidly ruled out even though it was a perfectly legitimate goal. He beat his man here, first time hit, far corner, brilliant. But I think because he's on this side cutting in to his favoured foot, he's doing the stopping thing, and it's stupid. But we'll look to the side of the other, aren't we? This was supposed to be a defensive show.
It's alright, I like a good old ramble and stuff like that anyway. It's nothing wrong with it. Like I find it interesting, hopefully people at home do. Is there anything else you want to cover then in terms of that? Because, I mean, I suppose the other thing we need to talk about actually is, if Trent is a midfielder, you might need to buy a right back.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I think Conor Bradley's probably good enough to...
Oh, he's good enough for the shirt?
Yeah. Do you reckon he's good enough to be a starter?
Yeah.
Well, in that sense, I don't know, have you ever had trust in playing all season? No, he's still a kid, isn't he?
Joe Gomez.
Yeah, you've got Joe Gomez, yeah. But then it's a completely different dynamic. So any system that you come to rely on, where Bradley's doing all that, if you then bring Joe Gomez in, he's not doing it at the same level. But to be honest, I think the lesson that we've learned today, maybe the moral of the story, is basically that everything is moving.
Yeah.
Everything is, the floor's moving, floor's ladder. And you can't really decide what you're doing until you've decided what you're doing over there, what you're doing over there, what you're doing there.
And probably the biggest piece is Trent, isn't it?
That's definitely a big one, yeah. Yeah. Even Salah, what are you doing with Salah? Are you selling him? Are you extending him? Yeah. If you're extending him, are you playing him as a 10 potentially? Are you playing him as a 9? Which I doubt. Are you keeping him where he wants to be?
I like the idea of playing him as a 10, right? But Szoboszlai, McAllister, Jones, Gravenberch, yada, 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 yada. They're all one fight for that space.
I think if I was to guess, I think Slot will keep him here, right? And I think he'll look at him and think that he's good on the dribble, and he'll realise that he's not. That's quite. I don't know if that's controversial or not.
No, I don't think so.
But when we're doing all that,
He's stopped beating a man, hasn't he?
yeah, he has. But if you look at him now, he is still tricky. He's still really fast.
No, he's tricky until he gets the player.
Yeah, you would look at him now and think he's good on it. He's a good dribbler. Yeah, he's a problem. But he doesn't beat his man often enough. I don't think he's good enough for it. But I think he'll start doing it with Slot, and I wouldn't be surprised if after like 2 months, Slot plays with someone else. But that's just a complete random take. Like,
Is there an option that Salah becomes the 9?
there is, but Salah has to play if he stays, and for me, Núñez has to play as well. So that's a problem because Núñez can only play here. I think Salah can play there, possibly there. But yeah, that and you've also got Jota, who's also probably a 9 in this. So
It's interesting.
Yeah,
It is interesting. I mean, Jota could play that 10 as well.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're
doesn't
pressing from the front and he's the fella who's joining in. You know what he's like involved in getting forwards and stuff like that. More questions than answers in this week's deep dive again, I think, to be fair, Josh.
Yeah.
We'll
Every weekend.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. What we're going to do from next week for 3 weeks, I think, is we're going to do a series. So we're going to look at the actual names defensively maybe that Liverpool should be looking at. We're going to look at the actual names of midfielders that Liverpool could potentially be looking at, and we're going to look at attackers. And we did this exercise last season, didn't we? And we actually pulled out Victor Gyökeres. Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Do you mean with Stathead?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also did this exercise with Stig and picked out Szoboszlai. Just a little pat me on the back, you know, mate.
Absolutely superb stuff. So we found Dominic Szoboszlai, who Liverpool ended up signing, and we found one of the strikers who is likely to move for big money and has an absolute Walesy. So hopefully we can find out some more players. I think the defensive side of things is obviously the hardest, isn't it, because of the data that's available to us.
Yeah.
In terms of midfielders and attackers, we should be able to do that quite easily. We might play around with it. If we don't find a good solution to the defenders thing, we might do midfielders first, then attackers, and then just have a look at some of the defenders that Liverpool are linked with. But when Liverpool are linked with players, we are going to be deep diving into those individual players as well. It's just not happening yet. We're in that sort of eye of the storm, I think. So thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Ciao.